I will argue that while buying a new car is one of the greatest feelings in the world, a reunion with family members has got to be a close second, if not maybe sometimes even better. I'm saying this because recently I reunited with a niece who I remember her to be so much younger, smaller, shorter than me really, but still that spark in her eye. And when I recently saw her, she was obviously much taller than me. She's matured so much. But that feeling of reuniting with her was just really, really awesome. The same can be said with this particular automobile that we have here today. This is the 2024 Chevrolet Trax. 2024 because, well, it's July already, and that's how it just works. Now, we've had the previous model. In fact, we have a review on it on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure that the links are somewhere down below. But now that I see it, this reunion that happens, I can't help but feel somewhat nostalgic and understand that it's obviously matured. It's now grown a little taller, a little wider, a little longer. It still has the same spark in its eye. But the question I have for it today is, has its maturity, which is obvious on the exterior, continued inside the automobile and also on how it drives? Let's find out on this episode of Behind the Wheel. Are you looking to compare prices for your brand new car? Well then, visit AutoDeal.com.ph, select the car that you want, and choose to request for a quote from our network of over 500 official dealer partners nationwide. Within minutes, you'll start receiving offers from the dealers you've selected. All that's left is for you to select the deal that's best for you. Get the best deal on AutoDeal. The most glaring, obviously, is its size. It is so much bigger than the previous generation. To put that in perspective, the previous generation was more in the Juke category, that type of size. Now, it's in the territory of the territory. But you understood that, right? Anyway, that's the difference in size. Let's start now on the exterior of the car. Let's start with the front clip. Up front, you've got LEDs here up on top as your DRLs. And then down below, you've got projectors. The grille up front is actually pretty cool. It's all blacked out with, take note, a blacked out bow tie. This is normally in gold. But for variants specific to the RS and the Redline, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of the 3 variants available, they will have a black bow ties. So those are obviously the top of the lines. This is the top of the line RS. Now the grille pattern and this sort of like boomerang shape right here, you will see this on much larger Chevrolet cars, such as the Suburban. So it's speaking the exact same design language there. So black on top and black on the chin as well. When we continue down the side, there is also a lot more black that can be found on the side of the automobile. A lot of cladding, including the roof rails and the roof itself. Now, from this side profile right now, as you're looking at the automobile, it actually resembles more of a lifted wagon than it actually does an SUV, right? If you put it side by side to a territory, it's actually much shorter, but it's in the same category. You are looking at 185 millimeters of ground clearance, though it may look actually substantially more. It's lowered to that number because if you crouch down, you will see that there are certain portions underneath that kind of stick out. So that part is 185, this is not. Regardless, however, you are looking at pretty darn good wheels. This set is specific only to the RS variant. These diamond cut wheels are 18s wrapped in 55 series. Looks darn good. Disc brakes all around. When we continue at the rear, here's where it gets a little bit interesting because this particular portion right here of the rear kind of sticks out. That's because the line from the side is actually split into 2. This line up here comes up on top. This line here comes and stretches all the way to the rear and gives it sort of like a nice pouting lip to it. Very, very unique, very different. You don't see this shape of a rear on any other automobile out there. Plus, there's also some similarities to, if you zoom in on this particular portion here, just focus on this, it kind of reminds you of the Subaru XV. So does the fact that the tail is also somewhat lifted. It gives you that sort of like XV feel to it. There are no exhaust tips found in the bottom, and Jack is holding the camera right now, thanking the good Lord. When we open her up, it is good enough, most definitely, to carry one balikbayan box, as the cargo capacity is about 725 liters. 725 liters without the tonneau that does come with this automobile. If I had the tonneau here, then this balikbayan box would definitely not fit. Fold the second row and you are looking at over 1,500 liters of space. And a nice touch is the fact that there is a power tailgate. That I do appreciate. Okay, so the rear seats is really where it becomes interesting, to say the least. First, that is Jack's driving position. Look at the amount of leg room that I have. Jack, who is almost 6 feet tall, sits comfortably in that seat and can drive himself to Baguio and back without ever stepping out of the automobile. Are we going to Baguio? No, we're not going to Baguio, relax. In that chair, no issues whatsoever. And look at the amount of space that I have. This is made possible because this car is really available in North America. So it's got Americans in mind. So very tall Americans in mind. The headroom actually could use a little help. But if you're talking about American, but the leg room is absolutely amazing. So the car being available in North America, they had to make space for much taller passengers. Now, for the Asian market, although you can fit 3 people back here, especially if you're talking about smaller Asians like myself, then yeah, it is possible. Not as comfortable, but it is possible. But for the better part of it, it's like better that you just put 2 passengers back here, because the elbow room will get kind of tight with 3 passengers back here. So that's the interesting part. Also, to make mention that the leather back here is actually pretty cool because it's perforated leather, it's good quality leather, and then it's got red stitching too. And it's got red marks here too. Well, this is obviously the RS variant. All the variants have ISOFIX tethers, which is obviously going to be a good thing. Up front, you've got charging points in the form of Type C and Type A, which I like, it's up to the market. 2 air vents there. A center armrest that is actually quite wide, so if the width of the car already is not pretty good, this might actually get into your side because the armrest is quite wide. With 2 cup holders there, and then bottle holders on either door that can fit my bottle. But where is, excuse me, my bottle? Yes, Jack's bottle, forget about it. Oh, it's hot. It's very, very hot. Proof that this is really Jack's driving position. Look, I can't even touch the pedals. It's ridiculous. Look, I can barely touch the pedals. Get into my normal-sized person driving position. First, let's talk about, since the bottles are already here, cup holders. Bottle holder here, bottle holder here on the door. Yes, everything can fit my bottle except Jack's. No, if you need to store Jack's bottle, then there's a large area right there. More large area also is the center console, because that's actually very, very deep. Now, let's get into the main meat of the car itself. There's a lot of textures found inside the automobile, which is nice, but there's also a lot of piano blacks found inside the car. Like, for instance, the textures that I was talking about here on this part of the dash, it's got a triangle pattern which you can feel because it feels like it's embossed, but you'll find the same thing on the door as well. See those triangles right there? So it's a nice match. It melds it together. Another melding would be this red line that's found here on the dash, right? It continues very nicely into the air conditioning vents. Although this, I'd expect it to kind of turn, sort of like with the hash marks here, would have been nice, but I guess it's nice that they continue it to keep it as flat with the red line that spans across the entire car. The steering wheel feels good to the touch. It's both got simple, straightforward leather and then perforated as well. And then you got buttons on your steering wheel for your cruise, which is very important, obviously, and to control your infotainment. The steering wheel is telescopic, so you can easily get to your proper driving position, as it is power seats as well. For the passenger, however, it is not power, it's manual. Now, what you have in front of you is two digital screens, two large digital screens that I'll turn on right now. This is an 8-inch instrument cluster with a lot of information on it, which is pretty awesome, and you can customize that. This is an 11-inch touchscreen infotainment system that, oddly enough, has Android Auto, but no Apple CarPlay. Now that on its own could be a deal breaker for a lot of people. However, it may come to a point where Chevy will update this infotainment system to accommodate Apple users. But in the meantime, from what I can tell you, there's so far only Android Auto. Also, oddly enough, it feels like these two screens, which are very, very great and tilted toward the driver, it works really well. And then all of a sudden there's a that comes out. Now, obviously, it's not part of the screen because the screen ends here, but it kind of sticks out and just comes out. Now, I know Jack loves physical buttons for audio, but that may not have been the best place to put it. Just saying. Below that are your air vents, and then below that are your air controls. Very easy enough, found in almost the same models, or rather other nameplates under the Chevy brand. You have a Type A and a, Type C and a Type A charging point along with a 12-volt socket. That's nice. And this pad right here is a wireless charger. And then, not to mention, it's got some flex on it because you've got the RS badge here on the chairs, which is actually very nice. And then you've got an RS here on the piano black, which the piano black I'm not really a big fan of, but the RS nice. And then, I don't know if you can see this, Jack's gonna try to get this, but there is also an RS here on the transmission. And I want to put the transmission into drive as quickly as possible and tell you what this car feels like on the road by going on a short drive right now. But before we do, as always, I'll ask you guys to please, oh no, Jack's bottle is leaking, to please subscribe to our channel because we create these videos just for you guys. Jack, why does it smell like vodka? Okay, so the first order of business is what's up front, which is a 1.2 3-cylinder e-turbo gasoline-powered engine mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission that produces 137 horses and 163 Newton-meters of torque. Now, the initial reaction of people will be like, wow, it is just a 1.2, a very small engine. Worry not, because the engine is actually very, very good. Now, you made mention, or rather I made mention, that it is an e-turbo. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that before, but essentially it is an electronically assisted turbo, which means that electricity helps spool it much, much faster. In turn, there is barely any turbo lag. The acceleration is quite immediate, actually. It's quite peppy, and it's a very, very good engine. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that if General Motors decided to make a small performance vehicle, this engine would fit right at home inside that unit. But yeah, well, that's not happening. One glaring reason why we feel that this car just drives so well is the fact that it is available in North America. Yes, this exact car with that exact engine is available in the United States. Now, the United States obviously is predominantly large highways and long stretches. So this car really feels at home even on long drives on the highway. It's quiet, it's stable, it's comfortable, and it's extremely spacious, as we've shown you that even much taller passengers, be it Jack or Americans themselves, anybody except me basically, are going to be very, very comfortable even in the back. So much so that we'll even say that even on a long drive to Baguio, which Jack absolutely loves, no problem in the back. Steering can, well, some might say that it feels a bit numb, but truth be told, it's really standard for automobiles in this particular category. The instrument cluster and the infotainment system is very driver-oriented in the point that it's tilted towards you ever so slightly. I will also add that it's very, very clear. These screens are extremely clear and very easy to read. You can get all the information that you need from the automobile, from your battery voltage, coolant temperature and whatnot, even your tire pressures and your trip computer and whatnot. And then you can easily access, as we pointed out, your audio settings and your air controls. The audio inside this automobile is not, let's say, for example, 100% grand. You don't expect it for a car in this particular category, but it's not shy at all with power because it sounds pretty good for what you get. There is nothing groundbreaking about the Trax. Technology is A-okay, it's nothing grand or anything like that, but what really sets it apart and what you want to stay in this car for is really the engine. It's just very good. There's no knocking, even though it's a 3-cylinder. It's peppy and it can be fuel efficient if you drive it properly. While that being said, okay, there is unfortunately something that may, well, quite literally stop you in your tracks. You like that? Stop in your tracks. What? What?
You're in the middle of the road, man.
I pulled over. And that is its price. See, the Trax starts at just under 1,800,000 Philippine pesos, which on its own, that's already a pretty big ask. But this RS is 1,948,000 Philippine pesos. Now, I know it is a big of an ask, and I agree with you, but if you're looking for an automobile that looks nothing like anything else on the road, it's really quite unique, and then there's the fact that it drives actually pretty well, then that price might actually be worth it to you. This episode of Behind the Wheel was shot on location at Ortigas Estates, Circulo Verde. For more information, visit the links in the description below.